let's go. Finding and creating trend lines. Today's lesson. Super important, super beneficial. One of those things, again, when you just first get into a play, it's one of the first things you want to pull up. You know, if you find your support, find your resistance. Again, here, like just kind of noticing this, I could have put that, you know, old resistance equals new support line in here, and I'm sure I showed you that example in that lesson where a line would have went right across here, and just noticing that, like, boom, look at that, perfect. Old bounces off the high of day. Didn't really, I mean, you can call that about, but you get my point. Again, same with the trend line. And starting with the trend line, every time you put one in, you're going to have in what I call the starter. Then your second bounce. That's when you know you need to put it in. Sometimes the second bounce isn't until here. You know, it's further on down the line. We'll get through many examples. This one luckily happened to create within, what, 5-10 minutes of each other. BEA, beautiful. Does overextend. Here's your first real good bounce opportunity. I didn't want to put an arrow in there too because it just, you know, would have cluttered it up. First one's right here. And it does the same thing again. Overextends. Gets a good bounce off of it. Gets you another beautiful bounce. Also, by the way, off of this old, you know, look at this. Another line I could have put in. Old support. Once below becomes resistance. Now back above becomes support, right? Old resistance. Or I should old support. Comes new resistance. And then back above becomes new support again. But again, this right here was your best bounce. Best bounce op right here. Hits it on the dot, shoots straight up dollars. Dollars, I say. It's probably like 50 cents, probably. I think that was or so. Wasn't the craziest of plays. And again, one last opportunity. You set your trend line in here. And look how you still get one. And again, how sometimes, look, it's like right on it. You know, kind of where it creates it at. Sometimes you're going to have these lower shadows that come 5, 10-ish cents below. Usually no more than 5 or so. But sometimes you'll get a 10 or so, you know, cent wick below. That's fine. Take your fill in the trend line. Trust it. Stick to your stop loss. So if your trend line right here, if that was it, maybe your stop loss is saying, you know, these look right here, but you get my point. Stick to that. You're good. You would have been golden, baby, as you get another 20+ cent bounce. I think there's 20 to 25 cent increments. Beautiful play. Stick to your trend lines. Again, let's get to every one of these, and it's going to be the same thing over and over and over and over. I mean, and from all different time frames. Some of these are going to be from December last month, last December. This is last May. Again, the starter. You know, right here's the first trend line, right? First one that probably was created. Then we kind of overextend off of it and just push from there. But here's where your true trend line sets in. Here's your starter. Here's your first touch after we overextend. So that's where it's now needs to be set in, especially when we're just riding up it like this, right? It has to be set in there, team. Got another great overextension. These are when you want trend line bounces. Overextension, come down to Papa or Mama or dog coin. My dogs. It's always going to be dog coin to me. My dogs. All right. Anyway, though. But again, set your trend lines in. Here's your bounce plays. Bounce plays. Finally get a good, and again, kind of getting iffy here for a minute. Really not surging. Finally, though, get a good push off the trend line. And then even after we overextend and we know this run's getting close to probably being done because the trend lines can't last forever, team. Look how we get one last, even again, like the last example I showed you, bounce. So again, set in here easily. Should be set in here. It starts here. Now we set it in here. First bounce, second bounce, third bounce, 4 bounces. 4 bounces, team, that you could have bought right here off of VTIQ. Next example. Same thing over and over, team. I'm going to show you. I'll stop putting the starter and all that in. But again, here's your start. You know, you can maybe consider that your starter because that is a true lower shadow. One of those really rangy plays. You can see upper shadow wicks everywhere. Wiki, as I would say, this is very wicky, very rangy. Starts right here. Perfect touch. Now we're riding up it like I just was showing you with like coin, right? You have to set it in here. Any of these plays, this is you riding up it. This is when you surge off. And this is, to me, and I do like plays when you break what? New high of day. We've essentially could be an ascending triangle here, where here's the top of your line, here's the triangle up. Finally surge up, get the biggest volume of candles of the day, and what? Break above high of day area. Whammy. Above this little dot, 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 boom. Look at this. Right here, up to these upper shadows. And again, tries to hold one last time. Last April. Like I said, last April was money, especially the end of April. It was kind of slow, I think, to begin with a little bit because the COVID was really setting in, and then it just took off again from late April into July. It was just, I've never seen a May through July that hot, ever. And it was hot, hot, hot. Again, starter. Doesn't quite touch, right? But you got to set it in somewhere in here. Somewhere in here, you have to set it in and just play it. Knowing maybe if you miss the bounce, it's like, well, it's okay. If it's sometimes just a little, you still set it in, team. You couldn't. I didn't want to do it to overbear you, but boom, again, how every one of these look has like a trend line you could have set in there, getting tighter, and sometimes they get tighter and tighter and tighter. See this one, as this one does. See, each overextension, as you can see, gets a little smaller till it finally breaks out of that little, right there at the tip of it, right here, surges up to the new high of day. But just have it in. Know when it cracks what you're going to crack, and now you either sometimes this one, and again, when you see these, this is when you get out of your short and go, wow, this isn't doing anything. Again, still though, it's still decent 20-25+ cent short. If this is 20 cent increments, you're in here right here, this gets down to the VWAP, that's close to 30 cents in the end. And again, why we keep the old trend lines up, I meant to extend this a tad further. Look how that try to spike back up, and the old trend line up said, as we older folks say, no, Dikembe Mutombo. That swat, Dikembe Mutombo comes in, gives you that NBA Jam swat, and you go flying to the ground like, how wasn't that a foul? But again, you keep those old trend lines up. You got to, team. You've got to. Look how it was perfect resistance again. I say again, but as you come back up to it, it was one support will be resistance. That's why we always kind of have that term, old resistance equals new support equals, but old resistance equals new support. Old support equals new resistance, and that was the case there. Old support equals new resistance. Trend line, and again, they can last all day. Again, usually though when they do, it's like this. I mean, CRDF. I mean, look at this team. This didn't do anything all day, but just kind of sit on this trend line. Just what was it, 650-ish is when it started. It takes, I forgot how many hours, and I meant to take a better screenshot of this, but I laughed when I did this one. This is from last year. I mean, from one of my examples, this was back in September. This is when it was slower. I think this is when it first started kind of finally heating up a little bit. And this is what we'd see. What? Love it. Holding gains all day. That's huge, team. And it doesn't matter if it's not doing much. Huge. But again, it starts at 650, hits 750. It took what? 3-4 hours to go $1. And then immediately $1, right? And then immediately in one candle goes over half of that run. And then goes bananas. And look at the volume coming in. There's no you can't even really see it. It's like, where is it? And then just whammy. So again, create your trend lines. Trend lines. Overextends. Now we're on our second trend line. Oh, wow, that's kind of really getting overextended. Our real trend line's back here at like 775. I'm up at 1118 now. Yeah, I might want to take profit if I'm in this still. Wherever you got in. Don't be chasing up here. For sure, team. And again, wait for a trend line to crack. When you get this overextended, look at this, from 1050 down to 9. We probably went down even further, but still 75 cents right there. Trend lines, set them in. When you see them, set them in. Here, this is just one of those ones where you just buy here, it's got to be set in. Somewhere, it's not really true bounces. They're very minuscule, very small, but it's got to be in. And then eventually, when we start seeing this, we could have even put one right here. There was another trend line really starting to create. We could have put in. I should have. I just noticed this one. So 3 trend lines being created. Set them in. Because the main thing, look at the channel. Another channel could have put a line on the top of this. Where this squeezes right here. Look at this trend line, and this is going right across like a flag, and it is essentially a wedge, right? Ascending triangle squeezes, whammy. Notice those things. Notice your trend lines. Notice your trend lines. Notice your trend lines. Put them in. These are just from the past. I have some of these from the past week. Here's TIGR from the other day when I traded it. First overextended trend line. This is where I bought the bounce, stocks and bonds. Thanks for pulling this up for me, by the way. Now I can finally talk. Can chat a lot and messages, but to me it doesn't get the message through like when I'm going live on Fridays. But yes, thank you, stocks and bonds. Beautiful trend line. I wish I would have shorted this, but again, he was pulling out. I think he, she, can't tell sometimes stocks and bonds with those names, but that person, that beautiful alertee, stocks and bonds anyway, said, hey, what about a VWAP bounce? I was like, ooh, man, yeah, overextended up to 2050. This is getting super, overextended. Can't wait for this to crack. If we can pull down to the VWAP area, plus there was this lower shadow right here that I loved. Now, it did come a little bit below. Again, to the lesson about trend lines or even VWAP bounces, any bounce. Sometimes it will go a little below, as you can see. Sometimes it's this was only about 10 cents below, but that's fine. It went down to 1063. I got filled at 72 or 3. Forgot what it was. I think it was 1972. Just because I remember the year. I was like, 1972. And again, another overextended trend line someone could have set in here. And then I'm just taking, obviously, I was out most of it here. I couldn't. That's what I was alerting. 2.5. 2.5. Why? Because I see this old 5-day resistance. That's where it's going to run to. Barely broke above it. We did keep running. Wish I would have held for more of it. Not worried about it, though. Took my trade, was moving on. But again, back to the trend line. Starter. Got to be in here. Now we get overextended, and here's finally really your first area to really get in if you want to bounce. But still, you could have been in about 20.80, right? Moves up 55 cents from there. That's pretty good bounce play. You know, even if you're in at 20, what's this? We'll just call it again 2080, 2085. You know, right here because this is 75. So, get my point. Good move though. Good 50-cent move. And again, looking for a short. That's why we put the trend lines in, team. This is my go-to short. Look how every one of these trend lines I show you. Look when they short. I could have put one in here. Short. I could have had 3 shorts. beautiful shorts too, by the way. And immediately just cracking off. Not like kind of hovering or love the trend lines. I think that's where I started noticing why I was going to get good at shorting, or would be, or if there, because I kept noticing this when I put trend lines in. I'm like, oh, I need to short. What am I doing here? Again, WHLN. This is from, I think this is from Monday too. Trend line. This one's a little wonkier, little wonky, but again, look, traditional kind of wedge here, right? Cracola, baby. Beautiful short. And again, later in the day, holds its gains, right? Now it's creating another trend line. Starter. First full bounce on it. It's got to be in right there. Look at this. Look at this beautiful bounce off the trend line. You know, it's say a 1040 fill up to $11 and 2 candles. I'm in for that. I'm up. I like 60-cent moves and 2 candles. That's good. And that's 2 minutes because I like to do these in 1-minute time frames so you can see a little clearly sometimes. Set it in, team. I mean, again, set those in. Watch them like a hawk. Like a stock sniper. You're in your tower. Yeah, thank you, Stocks and Blondes. I appreciate it. That was crucial. It's a good play. BT. Again, you know, why we set it in, and I know probably most of you maybe have not, you know, again, you could have had a trend line here, really. You look at the super overextended, cracks back. You know, could have had a trend line in right here, cracks back. But the traditional one would have been maybe right around here. And again, starter, set it in. Now you're going to try to get a bounce. You get one bounce from $10 up to $10.50. You know, a 50-cent bounce and four or five, you know, what is that? 4 candles, 5 candles, not bad. Ride that trend line, though. No, that's got to be, you know, I'm telling you, you crack that, watch what's going to happen. And look what happens. Set those in. This one's a little better. I meant to put this down. You know, this one's a little, because this where it was riding up here, it was kind of close to this, so I tried to put it as close as I could. But again, you know, set those trend lines in, knowing when that does go through wherever they're at. You know, however close, as long as you can get as close as you can to where that trend line should be. I mean, huge. I mean, here, I could have had another one in. You know, I could have had this in. Trend line in right here. Boom, boom, boom. Look at that. Right there. There's another trend line. Notice how many trends and trend lines you can set into place where you can profit, especially on the short side. You know, right here, if I put one in right here, if I would have been short right here at the 20, the 12, say, well, 12.20, 12.25 area, 12.20, never would have been, you know, tested my entry maybe, but my first entry, you know, right away from the trend line crack right here at 12.20, 12.25, I mean, whammy. Talk about right down to 11.75, so I'd have most off the plate there. But again, if you just would have held a little longer, whoo, you get some major dumpage. EARS, ears, all ears team. But yeah, again, played this one plenty of times. This was back in, what's this? Yeah, December 1st. The first day of November. Or December. My another good GM. It's the first of the month. Wake up. Yeah, it's the first of the month. Again, though, set your trend lines in, team. Know when they crack. Good opportunity for a short. Riding up the trend line. You could put another again, line going right up perfectly. Keeps hitting it. Hits it. You know it again. To where to take your profit. Again, that's why we have trend lines for. Buy. Sell. You know, now this is the bottom of it, but say here. Buy. You're selling into the top of the trend line. Buy again. Selling to the top of the trend line. You get my point. So on and so forth. Don't get one more dip, but again, could have bought here, sold to the top of the trend line. Maybe save some if we finally break through it. That's your goal for trend line plays. I think we got like 1 or 2 more of the trend lines up. But again, here's one of Vanar. Here's another one. Oh, Vanar. think this one actually was from yesterday, the day before. Whenever these, I guess I kept the 15th when I took all these from yesterday. That's why all these say 4/15. It's because I took these on 4/15. Now I scrolled back and they didn't say the day, unfortunately. But again, beautiful trend line. I think this one was though from yesterday, but still, here's first original trend line that we have set here, and now I have it set in. This is when I remember having it set in right here because this is when this cracked. Beautiful short down, and especially when I added this one to it. Look how it not only cracked when it does come to rise back to it. Now I know $1 tough. That adds to it. That's why I call the double whammy. You have that on top of it. You have $1 already sitting there as a big old Dikembe Mutombo, bouncer trying to get in the club. He's like, no. You got to be on the list. Then you have the trend line up that you did crack, and when you come up to it, it's like you have two bouncers there. One bouncer, maybe you can get like your friend to distract them or something, and you got multiple friends. One's not going in that night, so he's going to be the distractee or something. You can maybe get around one bouncer, right? But two at the door, you're done. You just ain't getting. You're just not getting in. It's just not happening that. It's just not happening that night. So when you have that double whammy resistance, it's kind of going to be that way. So notice that. Keep it in. Keep it in. Look. We crack below it. Oh, let me try to get back through. Nope. The one bouncer was enough this time. He smacked him on away. So keep them in. But notice you can have multiple trend lines on plays at certain times. And yeah, I think this is the last one because this kind of heads into what will be for this afternoon's lesson, because I think this is a good one where we can have, again, both. And then, so of course, I want to get into some just specific downtrends. But sometimes you'll have a trend line, and I really could extend this maybe a little bit further if you wanted to, as you can see that, but I just kind of wanted to show you where you get all these bounces in. If I extend this trend line all the way back through here, look at all these bounces that we get later into the day. I mean, beautiful one right here in market. This is the one everyone needs to be taking. That huge overextension to 1140. We get a pullback and crack of the VWAP. That's beautiful right there. BEA, beautiful. And then again, notice the downtrend. Notice the downtrend, perfect. Upper shadow, beautiful. Look what happens. Dre trades right here, just be chomping at the bit. Anyone else that loves downtrend breaks, you're in here at the, I think that's around like the, the 940-ish area, 945 area. Boom, you're good. Look at the instant surge. Notice your trend lines, team. Put them in. Say if this was even just your starter, here's your first full bounce where it's set in now. When you come back down to this trend line, and this has now overextended $1+ like it did, this bounce, just, beautiful. 950 area fill, probably actually a little lower, probably around like 930-ish, 925, straight up to 10. Great play. And yes, that's what I thought. And then we'll get into this afternoon, trend lines, downtrend, DTs, baby.